Live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman television, here we present to you tonight's news bulletin. But first, the headlines. Delegated by His Majesty the Sultan, His Excellency the Minister of Health represented the Sultanate at the Coronavirus Global Response Summit. The Ministry of Health announces 69 new confirmed COVID-19 cases. And Tatabmin electronic initiative is launched aiming to provide health and psychological assistance to some cases affected by COVID-19. Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. Assigned by His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq, His Excellency Dr. Ahmed bin Mohammed Al-Saidi, Minister of Health, represented the Sultanate at the Coronavirus Global Response Summit held virtually today. More detail in the following report. Assigned by His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq, His Excellency Dr. Ahmed bin Mohammed Al-Saidi, Minister of Health, took part in the Coronavirus Global Response Summit and presented the Sultanate's speech via video conference. His Excellency the Minister of Health praised the proposed global collaboration to accelerate the development, production and equitable access to new COVID-19 diagnostic therapeutics and vaccines that were launched on Friday, May 1st.
We firmly believe that collective and cooperative action between states is a key foundation in dealing effectively with the threat against health, life, and livelihood posed by the COVID-19 pandemic, bringing grave social and economic challenges all over the world. We welcome and applaud all efforts by the World Health Organization, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the G20, Gavi, and others. Current conditions in Oman, we managed to slow the progression of the disease thanks to the measured steps taken by the government and supported by the public. Since we had our first case on the 24th of February 2020, we've had so far only 2,568 cases, 12 deaths, 750 have recovered completely. Our great thanks and gratitude to our frontline staff from the healthcare professional and their colleagues from other sectors. We are fully committed to working closely with every nation to advance common thinking and collaboration among the international community, all for the benefit of the future generation and ourselves.
At the Sultanate's level, His Excellency highlighted the effective cooperation and continuous response of the Omani people in tackling this pandemic, in addition to their strict commitment to the precautionary measures. The minister also stressed that the Sultanate fully supports the considerable efforts exerted by the governments and peoples to manage this unprecedented challenge. Working together will assist in preventing future waves of infection and hopefully end this pandemic. Indeed, let's commend the exerted effort by those frontline staff, whether in the Ministry of Health, police, scouts, and everyone. Now, the Ministry of Health announced 69 new confirmed cases of COVID-19, which brings the total number registered in the Sultanate to 2,637, including 12 deaths. The Ministry of Health stresses that 816 cases have been recovered. Within the efforts to limit the spread of COVID-19, the Ministry advises all citizens and residents to keep on washing hands with water and soap. Avoid touching the face, nose, mouth and eyes. Follow hygienic habits when coughing and sneezing. Adhere strictly to social distancing instructions. Stay at home and not to go out unless absolutely necessary. Adhering to isolation and social distancing will prevent you, your family and the community from COVID-19. Stay safe. Here in the Governorate of Muscat, the Muscat municipality decided to close the Wadi Kabir industrial area in the Governorate of Muscat starting from today, 4th of May 2020. The decision came implementing the directives of the Supreme Committee dealing with COVID-19 updates, as well as to ensure the safety of all. The Muscat municipality called on all to adhere to the safety and precautionary measures. Tatammin is an electronic initiative launched by a voluntary team which is meant for some health and psychological situations during the COVID-19 pandemic. The initiative is supported by the National Youth Committee and under the supervision of psychologists and medical experts from various health institutions in the Sultanate. The initiative renders health and psychological assistance to some cases affected by the coronavirus COVID-19. The members of the voluntary team chat with COVID-19 patients in order to obtain details from them before prescribing medicine and rendering psychological counseling for them. The initiative aims to raise awareness among various society segments about the importance of psychological health. The initiative included an electronic application through which the members contact the patients and pass on the collected data of symptoms and conditions to the psychological experts. Around 1,000 patients are benefiting from Tatammin initiative. A number of areas of the wilayas of Nizwa witnessed rains with varied intensity, which led some wadis to overflow. The following are footage of some overflowing wadis in the wilaya. And coming back towards Muscat in the wilaya of Somalia, again in the Dakhliya region, the rains with varied intensity fell over some mountains, which led to some wadis to overflow. Following are footage of some overflowing wadis in the wilaya. Once again, a number of wilayas of the Governorate of South Sharqiya also witnessed moderate to heavy rainfalls that led some wadis to overflow. The following are, again, footage of some overflowing wadis in the wilayah of Sur. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and still to come in our news bulletin. An Iraqi confectioner makes cakes in the edible form of coronavirus to create awareness on people about the WHO's instructions to use sanitizer, wear masks, and stay home.
Non-compliance with the directives of the Supreme Committee dealing with coronavirus COVID-19 exposes you to risk and legal action. Stay safe.
Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. For 8 weeks now, the whole population, young and old Italians, have been cooped up in their homes, unable to relax outdoors as the country clamped down with strict quarantine regulations to try and beat back the coronavirus. With that, the start of a lifting of some of these regulations, Italians this week are now allowed to meet relatives in small groups and exercise in the park. In Rome, many of the open spaces have become overgrown by weeds after weeks of abandonment. Grandparents took grandchildren for walks and joggers ran through the open spaces. In Milan, spring flowers blossomed in a central park, surviving with the weeks of having no one trampling over them. Many people, most wearing masks, were out and about exercising or simply having a peaceful walk. Meanwhile, Italy recorded 49.4% more deaths across the country in March than the average for the month over the previous 5 years. The number of deaths across Italy from the day the first novel coronavirus case was recorded on February 20th rose by 38.7%. The Mediterranean country has officially attributed 28,884 deaths to the virus, but the figures mostly include hospital deaths. South Korea today said it will reopen schools in stages starting from May 13th as the daily number of domestic cases of the new coronavirus has fallen close to zero over recent days. But health authorities urge vigilance once some 5.5 million elementary, middle and high school students gather in classrooms, and they are conducting mock drills and preparing guidelines in the event of any outbreaks. Widespread testing, intensive contact tracing and tracking apps have enabled South Korea to limit the spread of the virus without the extensive lockdown seen in other countries. But the beginning of the spring semester has been postponed 4 times since March during an intensive social distancing campaign, which has obliged schools to hold online classes. Students and teachers will have to wear masks except for or during meal times, wipe their desks and maintain distance as they move around. Schools will also be required to carry out regular disinfection and temperature checks and rearrange seating. On May 8th at 1945, crowds swarmed around Nelson Column in London's Trafalgar Square to listen to the British Prime Minister Winston Churchill announce the end of the war in Europe. In a speech played over loudspeakers, there was a hushed silence when Churchill spoke, but when he was finished, people erupted into cheers and celebrated in the streets. London's great boulevards were packed from Piccadilly Circus to the Mall. Crowds headed towards Buckingham Palace, where the royal family appeared on their balcony with Churchill to great acclaim. Today, some streets are deserted as Britain fights a new invisible enemy, one that has struck the British Prime Minister and killed thousands. The British government has urged people to stay at home to help stem the spread of the pandemic. During the war, almost 6 years of bloodshed and brutality tore through Europe, North Africa, Asia and the Pacific, having an estimated 45 million people dead through, although some estimates put the figure as high as 60 million. On May 9th, 1945, Germany surrendered to Russia after the battle for Berlin, and the war in Europe was over. A confectionery store in Iraq is encouraging people to go for the coronavirus, at least the colorful version depicted on their cakes. Cake makers at the Najaf shop are using fondant and icing to depict the virus in an edible form. "This is my quarantine cake," reads the writing on one cake. Another cake features decoration inspired by the cleaning product Dettol. The name of the virus comes from the Latin word corona, meaning a hollow or crown, which the viruses resemble when viewed under a microscope. The owner of Royal Confectionery Store is hoping the virus-inspired edibles will guide people to the World Health Organization instructions to use sanitizer, wear masks, and stay home. Cakes on display also feature children's beloved cartoon characters wearing masks. The fasting month of Ramadan is underway, and demand for sweets surged at this time of the year. Iraq has nearly 2,300 confirmed cases of the coronavirus and 97 deaths. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Assigned by His Majesty the Sultan, His Excellency the Minister of Health represent the Sultanate at the Coronavirus Global Response Summit. The Minister of Health announces 69 new confirmed COVID-19 cases. And Tatammin electronic initiative is launched, aiming to provide health and psychological assistance to some cases affected by COVID-19. And let's all natma'in while we are at home, taking all the precautionary measures, and we stay home by not spreading the virus elsewhere. Good night.